We had pretty lively practice out there today. I thought the guys had a little more juice. 2 days in a row we've had to go inside because of the weather. Obviously we're shuffling some guys around. Unfortunately yesterday we've lost Brandon Kennedy for the season. Just had a leg injury. Just kind of standing on his feet there. Nobody really rode up into him. It's very unfortunate for him. But it's like I told him, he's got another year. He's been through this before. He gets an opportunity to get another degree. So he seems to be in good spirits. And I know our staff and our players, everybody really has respected Brandon since he's been here and how he's worked and went about his business. So it's unfortunate for him. But that happens to people all over the country. And it's tough on these young men that pour a lot into it throughout the year, get an opportunity to play. And the thing about it, you're never guaranteed anything, but it's unfortunate, but it does happen. So we've shuffled a few guys on the O-line, but the fact that we've moved guys around during fall camp, I think will help us, and this is why you have to do it. It makes growing pains with your offensive line, through fall camp, because guys don't play the same position. For instance, a guy like Jerome Carbon, the guy gets here at mid-year, he's already played left guard, right tackle, and now he's going to be, probably the third team center. We'll give him some reps there, but it's what you have to do, and our guys have been willing to do that. I think our guys are excited about playing this week. You only get so many opportunities, and I can kind of see it at practice a little bit. These guys have a lot of respect for the team that we're playing in ETSU. They know a lot of guys on the team, so I know they're looking forward to playing.
Steve?
Yes, I guess it happened Tuesday. Just how did the linemen kind of respond in practice or in the meeting rooms today? And do you want to say who's going to be doing the first snap on Saturday?
Yeah, this has happened. It's not the first time it's happened to people at Tennessee, and it won't be the last, unfortunately. But it's part of the sport, and everybody understands that. And, the next guy will be Ryan Johnson. Ryan's played there. Riley Locklear. Jerome can play center. So we've repped 4 or 5 centers over the course of spring and summer. So you have to do that in fall camp. So we'll shuffle some guys around and see after the day in March practice what's the best combination.
Blake?
You mentioned it was the leg with Brandon. Was it a knee?
Yes, it was an ACL.
Austin?
When the time comes, just because he's been out with a broken leg at Alabama and now this, would you guys, if he wants to pursue a potential 6th year for him just because he's missed so much time due to injury and during his career?
I think this is just are you talking about in 2 more years?
Yeah, like next year.
Yeah, well, I think right now the big thing is we're going to worry about getting the proper medical care and getting him fixed and rehabbed, and then we'll worry about that when the time comes.
Jesse?
The offensive line, just in continuity, how much do you guys reckon other guys like Junior Johnson, also at right tackle right now, is he kind of penciled in as left guard for this next week?
Well, you always got to have guys that can move around a little bit. For instance, if you got 10 offensive linemen, so there's your 2 deep, right? Well, maybe your backup center on the depth chart might be your 10th best offensive lineman. So if you lose your center, should you play your 6th guy or your 10th guy? It makes sense to play your 6th best guy. So to do things like that, you got to be able to move guys around. Some of the reason I talked about, I have a lot of confidence in our offensive line moving forward because these guys have been doing this the whole time. Trey practices on August the 17th, so we're practicing like Trey's not going to be there. Chance Hall has gradually worked his way in there. Jerome missed all summer. Brandon wasn't there in the spring. So there's lots of guys, lots of moving parts there, and I think as these guys kind of start playing the same positions over and over and get used to playing beside the same guy, they'll have a lot more confidence in who's in there with them.
Patrick, and then Ron.
Jim, I guess switching away from the offensive line, you said after the game that in the secondary, the guys that played were the guys that had earned playing time. Didn't look like you guys maybe rotated too much until kind of late in the game if you opened up any of those spots? And is anybody this week kind of maybe taking advantage of some of the opportunity that we got in practice?
Yeah, I mean, we really, we had starters for that game. Then you evaluate how that game went. There's a few guys that got to play in the game. And then you start practice the next week, and then we'll have starters for this game. And that's the way it will be as long as I'm here. You play based off how you perform at practice. Nobody's entitled to anything. And I think that's the best way. I think kids appreciate it, makes them go to work, it gets the best out of them, makes them develop as a football player, and it makes you have a better team.
Coach, stayed in the secondary. We asked you about the young. You played 3 true freshmen on Saturday, and against that quarterback and receiver combination. Just what have you seen from them in practice this week about you taking that experience and getting better from?
Well, I have seen guys with our whole team that have come out on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and you can see a little more kind of giddy up in their step, I guess, so to speak. Guys, it's got a little more intensity, which is a good thing. When things don't go your way, the first thing you want to do is you want to point fingers in another direction instead of figuring out what you can do to make your part better. And I think a lot of our guys are trying to do that. They're trying to figure out, how can I improve as a football player? How can I help my unit? How can I help this team? And that's what we got to do. It's one game. Was it the way we wanted it? Heck no. But we could have went out there and played our best, and we might not have won either. The key to the drill is to go play our best. And that's what we're looking for.
Wes?
Jeremy, how did you evaluate the edge guys on defense in that first game, and how many of some of those issues maybe are kind of short-term correctable? How many of those things can get better right now?
Edge as in like defensive ends?
Yes, defensive ends, outside backers,
Like
pass rush.
finishing on the quarterback, things like that. Well, a lot of that, there goes a lot to rushing the quarterback. First thing is you got to cover them. You got to do it as a unit. You got to cover them in the back end. You got to disguise so the guy doesn't know where the ball's going, so the ball's not out of his hand right now. I mean, there's lots of teams that if you're playing against a good quarterback, you can bring as many people as you want, but he understands what he's got and the ball's out right now. So there's really no reason you'd be better off not rushing anybody because the ball's coming out that fast. So I think there's a combination with our guys. I think our guys have ability on the edge, and I think a lot of times in the game, they've done a lot of things the right way. We got to finish on the quarterback once we get back there. And we got to do a better job in the back end, make the quarterback hold the ball and give those guys a chance. So there's a lot of combinations there.
Vince and Austin, Jesse. You just go.
Okay. 2 questions. One, early returns on seeing J.J. Peterson practice. And then also, you've mentioned explosive plays. Do you think you have the receivers to make plays after the catch to help on that portion of getting explosive plays?
First of all, with JJ, I've been recruiting JJ for a long time, so I know a lot about him. Probably the biggest thing right now, JJ's out of shape. He didn't go through summer conditioning. He didn't go through fall camp, so he got a long ways to go physically before he would be able to play. As far as wide receivers, to me, I think lots of times schematically, if you can hit wide receivers for yards after the catch, if you can hit them on the move, when they're going vertical, they're going inside, you catch them on the move, you tend to get more opportunities as far as yards after the catch than you do if they're coming back to the line of scrimmage or outside breaking routes. So lots of times it depends on what kind of coverage people are playing. You got to take advantage of what they're doing, but definitely hitting guys on the move, guys that are facing the line of scrimmage like backs, when they catch it, gives them more opportunity to create yardage after the catch.
Jeremy, what have you seen out of guys like Kingston Harris and Emmett Gooden this week, coming off of last week where they didn't get a whole lot of run? Do you feel like that's a couple of guys that can help you guys going forward quickly?
Yeah, I mean, you can throw John Mincy in there. You can throw Greg Emerson. You know, we've really got to improve and create some depth on the defensive line. You know, the way we practice, you know, we've been rolling those guys down on the scout team and then back up there with the defense. So they've been taking a ton of reps. The only way you can improve and get better as a football player and really kind of understand how to play is to do it. There's no other way around it. You can't get it in drills, can't get it in one-on-one. You can work technique, you can work toughness and all that, but to play the game, you got to go play. So we give our guys a lot of opportunities every day, and you know, they're like all freshmen. They have some days where they practice extremely well, and then they have some days where they try and figure out whether or not this is for them, and that's anywhere. All maturity.
Going in, you said you still had to decide on which coaches were up in the box and down the field and still figure out all those things with headsets and all that. How did the administration of the game go in terms of everybody communicating in good spots and how all that ended up working out for you?
Yeah, you know, defensively, Charles and Terry and Chris Rump all went in the booth. So, except for Terry, we throw in Kevin and Tracy on the field. You know, we've all coached together at some point in time. So that part was easy defensively. From a special team standpoint, the reason we put 3 guys up there, Charles is a special team coordinator, but he can do both. He can see it from there. Offensively, you know, some guys like to call it in the booth, some guys like to call it on the field. You know, Tyson would prefer to be in the booth, which is not unusual. Lots of guys like to do that. And to do that, you got to have men on the sideline that can kind of control the unit, because it's important to look them in the eyes sometimes and say, let's go, to get a feel of what's going on. And we've got that with the guys on our sideline. So I think from an administration standpoint, you know, I thought our staff done a good job. What we got to do is we got to get our guys from Monday till Saturday to execute the right way, to learn exactly what they're supposed to do. So when they get to Saturday, Saturday's easy.
Any more questions? Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Wes, have more.
Wes, you have one?
Oh, too late, Wes. You can go scrimmage, and most of the time, kind of what you see in the scrimmages is what you're going to get on Saturdays. But sometimes you might get something a little different. Not a whole lot, but you may have a guy that plays really well in the scrimmages, and for whatever reason, maybe it's because he's got anxiety, maybe lack of focus, whatever it is, you know, don't play well on Saturday. And then sometimes, again, very few times, you'll get guys that maybe don't perform as well in scrimmages, but when they get to the games, they kind of raise their level. It don't happen much, but you know. So one thing after playing a game, you kind of know what you got. You know what you got. You know who can do what. At least you kind of got like a baseline, and here's what we got, and here's where we got to improve, and with each individual player, each unit, and each side of the ball.
Thanks.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, Coach.